Welcome back, everybody, to the You Ask We podcast, the show where you ask the questions, they answer them, and I'm just the guy in the middle. Today, we have a super awesome episode. He's been a pro boxing coach for over a decade, and he's also been a professional fighter himself. He's an actor. He's an expert in fight choreography. I want to give a warm welcome to Josh Polit. Josh, how's it going?
What's up, man? Happy to be here.
Happy to be here. That's great. So the way the show works is the first question always comes from me. And that's what's new with you. What's going on?
Just busy here at Trinity Boxing. That's where we're recording. Just I'm here every day, man. This is my life, So yeah,
Just living the dream.
living the dream, dude.
Oh yeah. So I mean, what got you into boxing, like in the first place?
Well, I was a wrestler in high school. I went to a very competitive wrestling school, and I was never good at school, so I had terrible grades.
Right.
So I had a couple options. I was thinking about going to wrestle for the Navy. Kind of had like a what's it called when people sit you down and it's like they don't want you to go, like not an intermission. Someone is like a drug addict and they put them down and they like sit you around and they're like don't
Intervention.
Intervention, like an intervention. Yeah. Not to go. But that was like 2006 and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna go to the Navy. My mom didn't want me to go, so.
I mean, how would it even work in the Navy? Like, how does that?
Yeah, you like get into the Navy and then you like try out for the wrestling team. So I just wanted to I like boats, so I was like, I'll be in a boat and I'll wrestle and get paid well. And I was like chilling because I had no plans. I never like really thought about my future or anything after high school. And then I had an opportunity to go wrestle at a JUCO school in Wabanzi at Chicago. Way too cold. I'm from Miami. That wasn't gonna fly. So that didn't work out. So I ended up just staying in Miami, and then I was still in that mindset of like I want to do something crazy. So I just joined the local boxing gym, and the rest is history.
It's like, what gym was that? Do you want to shout them out? Or?
Yeah, Knockout Boxing. They're not there anymore. But people, OGs from Miami know. It was literally on top of an ice rink. It was like out of a movie. But they knocked down the Kendall ice rink or the Hammocks ice rink. Kendall, one of those two. But it was the only ice rink in Miami, pretty much. And there was like the ice rink, big doors, and then there was like a little side door, and you go up the stairs. And dude, it was a gym, and it was cooled by the ice rinks, so it was freezing in there. But it's in Miami, so it's hot as hell outside. But I was in there in full sweats every day, and it was pretty cool because you could see the ice rinks on both sides of like the windows and stuff like that. And yeah, it was just like an old school gym run by this guy George, and he like used to like ref all the fights in town, so everybody knew him. And yeah, it's the best place to be. And I just got into boxing, but very quickly from when I started learning boxing there, I saw this guy rolling around on the ground in some like little shorts and like no shirt. And I was like, I would always see him and I'd never say nothing. And I just boxed and then he started like, he would jump in and spar with us too and stuff like that. And then one day I just kind of told him like, hey man, what are you doing? Because this is 05, 06, like MMA didn't wasn't popular.
Like it wasn't a thing yet.
It wasn't a thing at all. And I just saw him in the little shorts. He's like, oh yeah, you know those people that fight in the cage? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, that's what I do. And I go, I want to do that. And I just started training with him, and we had a little team there. Crew Dave Gomez. He's the original Mr. BeautifulViolence. He's the one who taught me the BeautifulViolence, and that's kind of how I've like taken it over. Why I'm BeautifulViolence now.
So the original fighting you did, that was like MMA stuff.
Yeah, it was MMA.
And like that was your like fighting career?
No, so actually I've had more kickboxing fights than MMA fights, and I never went pro, but I trained with the pros, and I was on that journey until I moved here. So I did a lot of, those backyard fights,
yeah,
that you see with Kimbo Slice, stuff like that. Like I know Kimbo, Data 5000, those guys. He was a UFC fighter, Bruce Leroy. I don't know if you guys know who he is. Bruce Leroy, who else? Bunch of those old school, like George Masvidal was a lot of at those backyard fights and stuff like that. And my coach was friends with George Masvidal. I actually went out with him a few times, and my coach literally banned me from hanging out with him because he was always getting into trouble. But what people don't know in those backyard, those bare knuckle boxing fights, like back in the Kimbo days, there was a small group of us that used to do jiu-jitsu and MMA in the backyard, like after they were done or before, and people just thought we were crazy. We were just a couple of crazy kids. It wasn't like the boxing fights, because those were like a lot of anger. This was like a group of us that kind of like knew each other, and we kind of like just have fun and play around, and it was more like sparring. But yeah, that's what people don't know. Fun fact: they used to do some little backyard MMA fights. They just never recorded them, and we used to do like jujitsu on the dirt. It was crazy. It was dirty. And then this is 05, 06. There was no MMA was illegal, so that's why someone like George Masvidal had to go to Japan to have fights. So that was kind of like the route that people used to have to take back in the day. It's not as popular as it is now. And guys like us, we used to have to fight in the backyards, or we do smokers because they weren't sanctioned. So that's kind of why I wasn't a pro, because there was no MMA in Florida at the time. There was no sanctioned fights. But I had a lot of kickboxing amateur fights. A lot of the fights in Miami were at KO Boxing, and they would have a card every month, sometimes twice a month. They would be called Fire and Ice. And you would have a card, for example, where it's kind of like the 1FC fights right now, where it's a card with a bunch of different things on it. It would be like a grappling match, a kickboxing match, then a boxing match, then another kickboxing match, then like an unsanctioned MMA match, then another grappling match and shit like that. And like George Masvidal used to like headline those cards. I'll never forget. He was like, he was like a big deal in Miami. And yeah, man, those were that's how I kind of got started out. And then I kind of jumped from that gym to FFA Freestyle Fighting Academy in Miami. They're a really big gym. Had some amateur fights with them too. And then this gym, the biggest gym in town, was American Top Team, and I ended up making my way there, and that's kind of like where I finished my my amateur fights. And I had some really cool experiences. Like I said, I never fought pro, but I used to train with all the pro fighters. Even my little brother used to train with the pro fighters. He's actually the youngest kid, because I would take the classes and stuff like that. And on Saturdays we'd all do sparring at Coconut Creek up at the big American Top Team Academy. And right now the head coach, Mike Brown, I remember when Mike Brown was just a fighter there, and he was getting ready to fight Uriah Faber in the WC before the UFC. And I remember I helped him. I would not help him because he was obviously better than me, but we used to grapple. They brought me into like do jiu-jitsu with him and stuff like that, and get him ready for the Uriah Faber fight. But everybody would make fun of me because I was such a big Uriah Faber fan. I was helping the guy who ended up literally dethroning Uriah Faber. So had a lot of cool moments. Had a lot of good experiences with a lot of the legends like Thiago Alves. Thiago Alves is the one that helped me change my Thai stance to like more of like an MMA stance, because we had kind of the similar body types. We were like big legs, smaller upper bodies. Thiago Silva, famous Thiago Silva, he was one of my main coaches. We had Indio Villafort, Yuri Villafort. A lot of those guys ended up, when I moved over here, so long story short, that's how I got over here, right? I literally had plans to move to Thailand. The whole team, American Top Team, we were going to move to Thailand for 6 months and stay there and fight. But I kind of was like doing theater in school as well, and I was kind of like doing commercials and stuff like that in Miami. And that's kind of like one of my passions. And I came over here for a showcase, like an acting showcase. And I was like, fuck it, let me give it a shot. And I came over here and it went well. And I got an agent, I got a manager, and they were like, we need you to move here in 2 weeks. So I went home, I packed my shit, I stopped fighting, and I moved over here.
Wait, so what was training with Thiago Silva like? Because he's like a huge fighter.
Yeah. Deadly. He was one of my coaches. But whenever they were sparring and you see him bringing his duffel bag, fuck, we knew we were in trouble. It was gnarly, dude. There's really some gnarly guys. Hermes Franca, an old school American Top Team guy too. It was a good time, and I was a crazy little wrestler. And luckily, being a wrestler gave you advantages. So I was kind of like, I would do all the jiu-jitsu tournaments, like Naga, Grappler's Quest, all those old school jiu-jitsu tournaments. We used to run through them, me and all the little wrestlers. And at the tournaments, because remember, being a wrestler, we were doing tournaments every single weekend. Right. So once we jumped to jiu-jitsu, and those people doing jiu-jitsu, especially as a white belt, right? Like I was just starting out. Those guys had no experience doing tournaments or going against a bunch of people, but we already had that experience. So all the wrestlers used to like run all the old school jiu-jitsu tournaments and stuff like that. And, like we'd be able to slam people on our heads. Used to be able to do like super illegal chokes, heel hooks as a white belt, blue belt. Those were the good old days of jiu-jitsu, man.
Wait, so what was your record like in your fighting
amateur
career, like
fights,
amateurs?
like actually sanctioned. I had like 6 kickboxing fights, and then only one amateur MMA fight, and that was at American Top Team, and it was a big it was kind of a big letdown because it ended really quickly. I just like right off the jump, just like pressured the guy, and this is like amateur MMA, like you have shin pads, shit like that. Ran up to the guy, started throwing some hands. He turned away. I just jumped on his back, rear naked choke, and ended within 60 seconds. That's like you're like training for that shit. You know what I mean? And for it to end so quickly, you kind of like hate it. But that was kind of like my trajectory. But the thing is that I always tell people I fought because that was the only thing that I was good at. So when I had the opportunity to come over here for acting, I gave it up. People are like, do you regret it and stuff like that? And I'm like, no, because look where I'm at now. It kind of like things happen for a reason in life, right?
I also especially feel like acting is definitely like the safer route.
Yeah, definitely a safer route. It's your goal is to make money however you can. That was my goal, right? Like just make money. And I was not good at anything in Miami. I was just like I was working in restaurants and shit like that. I wasn't good at school. I was going to school for theater and stuff like that, just cause I enjoyed it. And so I was kind of like doing both. I was doing like marketing and then theater and in school, and then just kind of training and fighting. That's all I knew since high school. That's all I've been doing, dude. I was like sober too. Like I never drank. I never did any drugs. I didn't do anything. I just trained. I partied all right, but I was like I said, I was sober. So I trained, party, work, school. I was just doing it all, man.
So I'm actually curious before we get into acting. It's like what was your like craziest fighting experience like?
Uh, Craziest fighting experience is probably that MMA fight. Kickboxing was really fun. Crazy fight. Okay, I fought this guy one time. I'll never forget. This was like an unsanctioned like MMA fight at one of those Fire and Ice, and I fought this guy who was like 30, 40 pounds heavier than me. His name is Boomer. I'll never forget. You can't forget a name like Boomer. I don't remember.
Honestly, Boomer's a fitting name too.
Yeah, I don't remember anybody else's name ever, but I will never forget Boomer. And I remember I had his leg, and it was the end of the fight. Right, it was like third round. It was like 3 2-minute rounds or 3 1-minute rounds, something like that. And I had his leg, and they were just screaming at me, "Break it, break it!" And I couldn't break it because he had a big fat leg. This dude outweighed me by a lot, and I just remember I'll never forget how weird it is just being there, knowing that you have to break somebody's leg to finish the fight. And I was just trying my hardest to break the fight, and break the leg, and then it ended. I didn't break the leg, and this is Miami, dude. This was unsanctioned. They could do whatever the fuck they wanted. So they asked the crowd if they wanted another round, and they all said yes. So I had to do another fucking round, but I literally gassed out trying to break this guy's leg.
Wait, this was the amateur?
Yeah, it's just like a smoker. And then I just lost by decision. But I'll never forget having to break the guy's leg, and my coaches just screaming at me. I was in one of my coaches. He was one of my teammates, but he was in my corner that day. He was like a SWAT. He was like a Miami SWAT, and he was just like this crazy fucking cop. And he was just like screaming at me to break his fucking leg, and I was just like there, like, which is totally gassed out. And then they were like, I go to the corner. I'm like, thank God it's over. I think I won. And then they're like, you guys want to see another round? They was like, yeah. And I was like, no. And I looked at my coach, and I was like, dude, I'm dead. He's like, you got to get out there again. And then, yeah, it was just like the sloppiest round after that. We were just gassed. We were just fucking chin down, wailing. And, yeah, I'll never forget that one.
So, yeah, moving on to acting now. It's like you said, it's like the people reach out to you, like to cast you. You got an agent and things like that. Was there anything else that like piqued your interest in regards to acting, other than it being like kind of like the safer option? Or
like any other like skill, like anything besides acting, like to do, or
no? What else like got you into acting?
So, I took acting class in 10th grade. So when I was a kid, I wanted to be a cartoon animator. That was all my friends know. All my close friends know I'm a big Disney fan. I'm a big anime fan. And since I was a kid,
what's your favorite anime?
Dragon Ball Z. The GOAT. I was drawing Dragon Ball Z before people knew what the fuck that shit was. Because my neighbor had a friend who owned a comic book store, and so they would get us all the VHSs and all the Japanese stuff that you couldn't get, especially in Miami. You couldn't get none of that shit. There's only one comic book shop where you can get it at, and that was the spot. and it was called Tropic Comics. Yeah, I'll never forget that shit. Crazy. And so I was like drawing Dragon Ball Z characters from a very, very young age, before it even hit this country. And then, fun fact, I remember when Dragon Ball Z first hit this country, the first episode aired on a Saturday morning at 7 a.m. And I'll never forget, I told my mom, this is like a side note, but this is just for all the anime Dragon Ball Z fans out there. It was like on, I don't know what the channel was, but it was UPN where I'm from. But it was on, or like Funimation or whatever the fuck. It was 7 a.m. on a Saturday. And I remember telling my mom Friday night, hey, wake me up at like for 7 a.m. It's like 7 a.m. on a Saturday to a kid, that's unheard of. You know, you sleep until like 11, 12. But yeah, I'll never forget. But anyways, back to that. I used to draw anime and draw cartoons and, you know, Digimon, Pokemon. I used to draw all the characters and shit. And I wanted to be a cartoon animator until I took an acting class in 10th grade. And I guess my ego got the best of me. It came naturally to me. It was really fun. My ego got the best of me. I was like, you know what? I want to be in front of the camera instead of behind the camera. So my goal was to be a cartoon animator until I took that acting class in 10th grade, and it came naturally. And I was like, yeah, I want to be an actor. Or it was cool to have it as an option. I just wanted to be in front of the camera. I just knew that. I really enjoyed being in front of the camera. I enjoyed being on stage. I enjoyed making people laugh. And yeah, I grew up on all the greats, man, like the Isle of Lucy's, the Bewitched, I Dream of Genies, Dick Van Dyke. Like those are my role models. That like that style of like comedy. So that's kind of what I wanted to do. But I'm in Miami, and there's no outlet to do that. So I just did kind of theater in college, and I even got into a good school, and I never got to even go to it because I ended up moving over here.
And I mean, but then you came to LA and you started the acting career. It's like, has there been anything that you've done within that you're like proud of, you want to talk about?
Oh man, I peaked really early in acting. I came over here and I was hot. I was going out for like a lot of big stuff, and I got a little recurring role on this ABC Family show called Switched at Birth, which was pretty cool. It was probably my best experience. I booked a Sundance movie as soon as I got here. It was called, it's on my IMDb. What was it called? Nobody Walks. And just kind of like, yeah, just kind of like booking stuff early. And I remember when I booked that recurring role on Switched at Birth, I was like, man, I quit my job. I quit my acting job. And long story short, I blew all my money within a year that I made off that show. But I was also like, I was going out. The thing with acting here is there's a lot of things that people don't see. And sometimes you get really, really close to some really big things and nobody sees that. And I got really, really close to some really big stuff. Like there's a show called The Fosters. It was a really big show. I was pinned for it. I was going to go test or whatever. Like I already had a producer session. They loved me. I literally had people in my face telling me like, you're this is the lead on a big ABC Family show. And we had the appointment to go test, and they canceled it. And I'll never forget, I was heartbroken. And they gave the role to Jake T. Austin, this famous actor kid from Disney Channel. He was on Wizards of the Waverly Place. They just gave the role to him, which happens in this town. And long story short, he was so bad on the show, they killed him off because he was like a cokehead, couldn't remember his lines. He was like terrible on set. They literally like killed him and replaced him with that new kid that's like in everything. He was in Crazy Rich Asians and a bunch of, I don't know, you guys might know who the actors, but long story short, they replaced him with somebody else. But then I got really good, really close to a couple pilots too. I like tested for a couple pilots and it's never booked those things, but yeah, you know, it's fun. I'm still doing it.
And I mean, like during all those like casting experiences, like was there anything that like jumped out at you? Like was there any like super interesting like casting experience that you had?
Yeah, that like the one for the Switch for that show, for that, you know, it was a big show. It's still like there's still like a new show that like there's a spinoff that's based from the Fosters, but getting so close to that was pretty cool. It's pretty cool having like producers like literally look you in the eye and be like, you're it, and kind of like call people into the office to like watch you audition and like throw you from producer to producer's office. Like those things are pretty cool. I also read I went to a producer session for this pilot where the producer was Mike Sikowitz, who's the guy who wrote Friends. So meeting him was a big deal and stuff like that, man. But as far as what some people know, commercials is the one thing that has been consistent since I moved here. Like, dude, I've booked so many commercials. A lot of them are Spanish, so people don't see them, but like commercials is my jam.
Is there a favorite commercial that you did?
Yeah. It was a Super Bowl commercial. It was the holy grail of commercials. It was Super Bowl. that year, I think it was also like the World Cup as well. But there was a Universal Studios Fast and Furious commercial that I booked. That was pretty sick. It was pretty epic. That was my favorite one for sure.
It's like, how did that one go? What happened?
Yeah, it was for like it was for the ride or whatever. So like, it was like very it was like Fast and Furious X. So I was like in the car and I was kind of like give the girl a look in the car, and like BB Rex's like does like the wave that like the flag drops the flag and you guys like race or whatever, and then we're like on the ride and you have to like, it was actually the hardest I've had to work on a set because you're like, it's all green screen. You're like in this makeshift like ride vehicle, and like they're like throwing fire and like real pyrotechnics like really close to your face, and the wind's blowing and it's hitting you in the face. It's like burning you, and
you got to play it off like,
dude. Yeah, you gotta like have your eye. I'll never forget the guy. The director was like, smile but don't show teeth. And we were like, I like looked at the girl and we're like, he's like, no teeth, and we're like, and then it's like, have your eyes open, but the flames are like, you're like, it was so fucking hard, dude. But that's showbiz, right?
Yeah, that's how it is. And I mean, like after acting for a while, and then you're still in it, obviously.
Yeah. Yep.
But within that, you started becoming a trainer.
Yeah.
So what was that road like?
So when I moved here, right, like I stopped fighting, especially my manager. My manager did not want me hitting my face, right? But so I just joined this local like kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, like MMA school over here. It's not here no more. It was called it was Team Paragon, but it was Hollywood Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I would just take like just to stay in shape, right? Just doing kickboxing stuff like that there. And then from there, I'll never forget. So Guy Ritchie used to do jiu-jitsu there.
No way.
And this was like, yeah, and I was there, like I was one of the first members. So I was there like when like nobody was there at the beginning. Sometimes it would just be me and just Guy Ritchie fucking just rolling around, dude. And I was like a big fanboy, but like I hate going up to celebrities, and sometimes I like to wait for the moment's right. I'll go up to them, no sweat. But I just never wanted to like really fanboy. But I would roll with him all the time, and he kind of like Snatch is one of my favorite movies. Like he's one of my favorite directors and stuff like that. Like The Gentleman, everything, Lock, Stock, everything he does, I fucking love. But I just just said hi to him and we just roll, and I wouldn't really like ask him any questions. But one day it was literally just me and him, and I was like, "This is my opportunity." I go, "Hey, I can ask you a question." He said, "Yeah," and I go. So I used to train, I used to, fight and stuff like that in Miami, and here I'm acting now, and my manager doesn't want me to, get my face fucked up or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, how do you feel about that? And he told me, and I'll never forget, Guy Ritchie looked at me and he goes, I would never hire a man that doesn't have a scar on his face. He's like, break your fucking nose.
Tough.
Break your nose, fuck up your face, it adds character. And I go, all right, bet. So then I started sparring again and stuff like that.
But also, I feel like that changes up the roles that you get cast for.
Correct. And I think that was the main thing, which is the reason why I never like continued fighting against. People always ask me, you could have just fought here. Why don't you keep fighting? For two reasons. One, the roles that I specifically go out for were the pretty boy, the nice guy. I just don't have those, like, I don't have that big, strong jawline. You know what I mean? That's just not me. If that was me, yeah, I would have had some fights and stuff like that. So it just, especially for commercials, right? Like, I had to have that pretty boy look. So that's why I kind of never continued fighting when I moved here. The other reason was, dude, I would tell people here, I tell my fighters as well. Yeah, because I see it all the time. I see people that are like well into their 30s still fighting. And I'm like, why do you still fight? And most of the time, it's still ego. It's just ego, dude. People, you see it all the time. People just fight because they just want to be that person. You know what I mean? They still want to still say that they got it. But I'm like, fighting is going to end one day. And you're going to have to do a job, right? Unless you're fighting for belts or you're like a world champion or you're like really like undefeated, whatever. But if you're not signed by the UFC or whatever, and you're in your 30s or whatever, I would say hang it up. Like, whatever you plan on doing after fighting, start doing it now. Because why would you fight for another 2 years and then start? You might as well start now. So then in those 2 years, you're 2 years ahead in that business. You know what I mean? So I just didn't have that dog in me, dude. I was just like a different person when I was fighting. I was just like, wrestling made me fucking crazy. And that's why I jumped. I just wanted to do crazy shit. That guy told me he fought in cages. I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. I forgot, left that part out. When I in the Navy, I wanted to wrestle in the Navy, be a Navy SEAL, That was my mind. I just wanted to be the craziest son of a bitch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I moved here, that just kind of like left me. I just didn't have that dog in me no more. So I stopped fighting. Clearly I was, good in the classes and stuff like that. People can see that. And like one day, some girl just asked me if I did privates, and I was like, yeah, I can hold mitts and shit like that. Luckily, because I did a lot of Muay Thai, you hold a lot of Thai pads, so I already had experience holding pads. And because I was never, even wrestling, I was never my nickname was the Prodigy. BJ Penn was one of my idols because I was really technical. I was really technical. I was really tough and really technical. I was never the most, I was naturally gifted, but I was never like, natural six pack. I was never, like, you know what I mean? Like knockout power. No, I always had to work hard. So I was very technical. I was really good rest. I was a really well-rounded fighter. So that's why, like, I really love BJ Penn. But because I was such a technical person, and I got trained by some Cuban boxing coaches and some really good technical coaches, that I was naturally technical, which I had such attention to detail, which kind of made me a good coach. And then I got a job at one gym, and then from that gym, I jumped to another gym and kept jumping and jumping and jumping, and it's kind of how I got where I'm at.
So then what exactly got you to Trinity specifically? Because I know like Trinity is a New York based gym. Yeah. So what got you here?
This was one of my stepping stones, right? I worked at so I ended up working at Prevail. That was my first like boxing fitness job. But they didn't have any coaches with any like previous fighting experience, so that's where they got me. And I loved it. Great experience, like first time with like that class experience, but because I'm an actor, because I'm a naturally like personable person, it kind of came natural for me. I was very technical, so I made people better at their boxing. People loved me, and I was very energetic. I always had, I just good energy, and then from there, I kind of hit my. I always go somewhere, work my way up, hit the ceiling, go to the next place, work my way up, and then after that, I went to Box and Burn, and that's what opened up all the doors for me. That was the place that kind of made me the person I am, because back in the day, Box and Burn, they're still on the west side, but they used to have this huge warehouse. And if you live in LA, you know that you can't get affordable rent anymore. So they don't have that warehouse anymore. But they used to have a huge warehouse with 2 rings, and those classes had like, I became their quickest like head trainer. But the reason I always tell people that that I believe that I'm such a good leader is because I was such a good second. I was the best second ever. Like I was never, man, I'm a workhorse. I'm very respectful, and I just wanted to never steal shine from the leader when I was like coming up, right? But I became a leader quickly. But because I was such a good second, that's what made me like, a good head coach, I feel. But anyways, 2 months being into Box and Burn, I started leading classes, and my classes were full, and I just had such good success. A lot of pro fighters went there, so I started holding mitts for a lot of pro fighters and actors, and it opened up a lot of doors. And that's where I started doing all my certifications in functional fitness and animal flow and all that stuff. And I just became this like absolute beast. A lot of people don't see me here do stuff, but I really went through some shit. I really like worked my way up hard. I got certifications and everything, and and classes there had like 30 people in them, and it was like, I had to run like there's like 4 coaches in a class, or it was just like crazy. And I really got like high volume of holding mitts. I held a lot of mitts for a lot of years, until one day, once again, I hit my ceiling there. Long story short, my plan was to open up my own gym when I was like 40. That was my plan. I was in no rush. I don't mind working for people. I don't tell people in this town are so quick that people don't want to work anymore. People are lazy, dude. Let's be real here. And so many people work at gyms for like 2 years, and it's like, I'm gonna go. They have like 4 privates, and they're like, I'm gonna go solo and just be a private trainer. And then it's not as easy as they think, and then they go back to working for a gym. People here so quickly to like be the I want to own my own gym, and it's like, dude, it's a pain in the ass. It's pretty difficult. If you can work for good people, do that for as long as you can. If you're making money, it's the best. It's the least amount of stress. I promise you that. It's a good quality of life. So I wanted to open up my own boxing ring. That was actually my plan. They were gonna open one up here in West Hollywood. It was gonna be mine. I was gonna run it, stuff like that, and have shares in it and stuff like that. And they pulled the plug on it, and I just didn't see me. I was already like head trainer, and I was one of the top. I was one of the top guys, and there's nowhere else for me to go. So but I had a good handful amount of clients. But not only did I have a good handful of clients that were loyal to me, I had a revolving door of privates, and that's what I tell people. That's what you don't see a lot. You need to have people coming in and out always. If you only have those 4 clients and you're like, oh, I have enough, I'm making good money, I'm gonna go and just do my own thing. Those people are one's gonna get sick, one's gonna get injured, one's gonna grow out of it. And then if you're just doing privates on your own, there's no revolving door. When you work for a gym, there's a revolving door of clients. So it's really good. That's what's good about working at a gym. You have clients coming in and out, clients seeing you in classes, people asking you for privates. That's what you want. It's very easy. When you go and do privates on your own, it's very difficult. So those of you watching out there, if you work for gyms, stay working at that gym until you're literally forced to go on your own. So anyway, so then I went on my own and came here to Trinity. I was just doing privates here for a couple of years. And then one of my friends and ex-members from Box and Burn wanted to open up a gym with me. And so that's why we opened up Fighter on the west side and opened up Fighter. Pandemic happened. We were there for 3 years. Our lease rent went up. And after that, me and Nicole were like, what do we do next? Like, we're going to open up another gym. So we're looking at spaces on the west side. We're going to partner up with some people. And then we're like, just do it on our own. And I found a space, but I was still communicating with Martin, who's my business partner now. He's the founder of Trinity Boxing, who lives in New York. I was kind of like just kind of telling him about the spaces that I was looking at, kind of keeping him informed. And then one day, I told him I found this space, but one day he was just like, why don't you just take over Trinity, the one here in LA? Because he's in New York. He doesn't have time to like be here, stuff like that. And this gym was kind of just like a private training gym. They really didn't have classes here. They had like 1 class a day, but it was like, a couple people only and stuff like that. And he knew that I had a good business sense, and which I learned, by being thrown to the wolves at Fighter. It's kind of, we learned, me and Nicole, but as most of you know, Nicole's my wife. For those of you who don't know, we're the ones that run Trinity Boxing LA. And
wait, so what happened with Fighter?
Dude, the pandemic hit, and it was just like hard and some other technical issues. But they gave us like a different rate because of the pandemic, and we had a lease for like 3 years, and we were there for like, I think 2 years or whatever. And then they wanted to raise the price. They wanted more money. So we had to leave. So we left, and I was looking for another space, and price is crazy, dude. LA's trying to kill small business. Prices are nuts, especially on the west side. And so when Martin kind of like, I was going to have to take out a loan and do all the proper things to open up my own space over there. And luckily I had some friends, and they were willing to be investors. But when Martin presented this opportunity, I live right here. I love this gym. It's got a perfect essence and vibe, as those of you know. I just told Martin, I'm like, Martin, though, if we go there, like, I need 100% control. It's got to be like ours. He's like, yeah, you guys will be my partners. I was like, all right, bet. So we came, we remodeled this gym, and within 2 weeks, it is what you see now. We brought in our bigger ring. We took the floors out. We put rubber. We created the fitness area. We remodeled it a little bit more. We brought in our racks, our bags. We just remodeled this place and made it fit for group fitness classes. And of course, what we do here, Eden trains here. He knows the one thing we do better than everybody else is we actually get you better at boxing. You can do boxing in a million gyms here.
While we're at it, it's like give your best pitch for Trinity right now.
And a lot of any gym you go to, you will hear this, and they'll tell you that they get you good at boxing. And don't take my word for it. We tell everybody when they come here, try all the gyms in town. We are the secure boyfriends, the secure girlfriends of boxing gyms. Try all the other gyms, and then we'll see you here at the end, because we just make you better at boxing. That is my superpower. That is what I passed on to Nicole, who runs the gym with me, and that is what I passed on to all my trainers. You come here, and it's boxing technique classes. It's not boxing. Yes, you're going to get a workout. You're going to get lean, but you're going to get better at boxing. We fix your form. You're going to have a good time, and you're going to get better at boxing. And that is our It's not even a sales pitch. It's our, just don't take my word for it. Come try us out. We have the best prices. We have the best members. We have a good community. We check it. There's no egos here. It's very welcoming. People get very intimidated when they see the ring and see the vibe of this gym. And they're like, oh, is it a pro gym? And sometimes too, people come here and they're like, oh, can I just come and hit the bag, stuff like that? And it's like, no, we teach classes here. And then if people see classes, they're like, oh, then you guys aren't a pro gym. And it's like, look, bro, go to whatever gym you think is a pro gym. You're gonna get better at boxing here in classes rather than those pro gyms. Facts.
Facts.
Start, just wanted to say that this episode of the You Ask Me podcast is sponsored by Mudwater. Mudwater is an awesome coffee alternative that blends delicious organic ingredients such as adaptogenic mushrooms and turmeric, designed to give you a sustained energy without the jitters. Each serving of Mudwater comes with only 1/7 the amount of caffeine that comes with coffee, so you get a focused energy boost without the crash. And if you're looking to cut back on coffee, Mudwater is a great alternative that is also gluten-free, vegan, and keto-friendly. So, if you're ready to upgrade your morning, feel free to use my link and try Mudwater out. You'll get 15% off any new purchase that you buy, and if you decide to subscribe and get a starter kit, you'll get $20 off along with a free frother. So go ahead, try it out, ditch coffee, drink Mudwater. Now, back to the episode.
So it's like, over all your time training, right? What would you say, in your opinion, was like your proudest moment?
I think my fighters winning, dude. Every time my fighters win. Fun fact, I'm actually undefeated boxing coach. None of my fighters have lost, man. I just train people very well. I take coaching from a different point of view. I think a lot of coaches in this town, in this world, especially in boxing, there's a lot of coaches that don't make you better at boxing. They just kind of put you through the old school, the shitty mitt sessions, the long bag sessions. They'll get up from their stool and they'll be like, yeah, turn your punch over. Yeah, they'll come back, sit back on the stool. And they're not making you better. You just get better from sparring over and over and over and over and over. But I don't feel that a lot of these pro coaches are actually making you better. And I think that I take coaching from a different point of view. I make you, we strategize about who you're fighting, the opponent. I get your feet better. I get your hands better, which is from the Cuban aspect. It's very technical. So I just actually make you improve in your technique and your skills and just make you a better fighter. You can come here a good fighter. I'm going to make you a better fighter. And there's no better feeling than when my fighters have won, for sure.
You say all your fighters are undefeated. Have you had a chance to train any pros, or was it all amateurs?
Yeah, I've had 2 pros. The last one, that's a good moment. Eddie Jackson.
Shout out Eddie.
Shout out to Eddie. He's an outside trainer here as well. And he actually tore his bicep in the first round of his fight. And he won the fucking fight with one arm.
That's badass.
He was badass. He was conditioned. He's a veteran. He's a seasoned pro. He's fought MMA. He's fought kickboxing. He's done it all. This is just boxing fight. He started his career boxing. He ended it boxing. Yeah, man, that was a pretty cool moment. But I think, like you said, one of the cool moments was, I think I had this, and it's happened a couple times since then. But one of my fighters did this fight, and I was in the corner with Freddie Roach, being in the same room. I see Freddie all the time. I've been a wild card before and stuff like that, but kind of being not on the same level, but you know what I mean? Being in the same, when you have a fight, there's a blue corner, red corner, they kind of get their own, rooms where you kind of warm up and stuff like that. And I'll never forget my first time seeing Freddie Roach, in the corner. Actually, this fight was a fight at the Beverly Hills Hotel? Yeah, the Beverly Hilton, where they give, instead of having just a big corner room for the red corner, the blue corner, every 2 fighters had their own room in the hotel. So it's pretty cool. And I was in the room with Freddie Roach. So that was pretty cool. But I've seen him before. Like I said, my other fighter had his fight. But things like that are just pretty surreal moments. And it's kind of fuck, we're here. You know what I mean?
That's dope. So, yeah, before we close off, since we're talking about boxing and all that stuff, it's this is a question that we always have to talk about what in your opinion is like your Mount Rushmore of like boxers,
Oh, yeah, I think you told me. What, like top three?
like top 3, top 4. Like in your opinion, we don't
In
have to
my
go to the best
opinion.
because everyone says Muhammad Ali is the best.
Yeah, like I think that the actual best ever is like Ali, Mayweather. This one might be arguable, but I would say Roy Jones Jr. is what he's done. Then you could say someone like maybe like you're seeing them now, a Crawford, a Canelo, maybe Fury, maybe Usyk. One of those guys who take that third spot, right? But it's definitely, Ali. I think everybody can say Ali and Floyd, 1 and 2.
It's like nothing on Mike Tyson.
He's up there. He's on the Mount Rushmore for sure. He's in my top 3. My top 3 is probably like Floyd, Roy Jones. However you feel about Floyd, and don't get me wrong, Floyd's done some things that have made me not like him. You know what I mean? But you cannot deny what he's done. And I've been watching him since I was a kid. Since it was Pretty Boy Floyd. He was a killer. It's like Floyd. Roy Jones Jr. to me is the most talented boxer, naturally gifted boxer of all time. He's the fastest motherfucker I've ever seen. And then like Tyson. So those are probably top 3 for me. Tito Ortiz, Jesus Christ, no way. Tito Trinidad. I have a poster of him he was my favorite fighter when I was a kid. It was like Tyson and Tito Trinidad, Roy Jones, Floyd. Those are like my 4. And then Ali. That's my Mount Rushmore right there. So Ali, Tyson, Floyd, Roy Jones, Tito Trinidad. And I know it's random, but he was my favorite fighter. He used to knock fools out with a jab. And I remember my stepdad got me hip to him when he was coming up. Even though we're Cuban, he was Puerto Rican. I just love this style of fighting. He used to knock people out with a jab. Nobody knocks somebody out with a jab no more. And I used to I just love his style of fighting.
And I mean, speaking on that, I mean, like, especially bringing up Mike Tyson, how he's going to be fighting Jake Paul at some point. Like, what do you think of like the social media boxing scene? And it's also like, how do you think that fight's going to
go? Don't watch it. I know it's like highly controversial, and you hear both sides, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, they're bringing eyes." I think they're bringing the wrong eyes to boxing. I think it's also. I just think Jake Paul is white privilege, like embodied. He's just like, he's not good. Picks his fights. He does things with the contracts where he knocks people out. He puts you like on a. He just writes the contract so that you can't knock him out, like the whole Tyson one. Look at Tyson. He just had a fucking health scare. He shouldn't be fighting, period. He also has nothing to prove. It's probably going to end the decision. Like, how this fucking... We've seen this shit before. He's not fighting any real fighters. He fought Tommy Fury and lost. Tommy Fury's not even a good... His record's all...
But he's the only, like, real boxer.
Yeah. He's at least, like, knows how to box. You know what I mean? Still better than the average person. You know what I mean?
And honestly, it's like I feel like Jake Paul put himself in like a lose-lose situation.
Yeah.
Because it's like if he wins, okay, he beat a 6-year-old, but if he loses, like, oh, he lost his.
Yeah, because he's it's a lose-lose. But he's just like, it must be nice to just like be rich and like have the best chefs cooking your food, and you don't have to work, and you can just take 3 years off to learn a sport and do steroids and get strong and fight people that are smaller than you and win. And it's just fucking literally white privilege fucking epitomized in a fucking body.
So do you have any thoughts on someone like KSI?
No, same thing. Rich, don't gotta work. All you gotta do is train. You can train with the best fucking people. You could spar the best people. You can learn from the best people because of your platform or whatever. It's fucking bullshit, dude. Like, people out here, like I said, I fought because that was the only thing I was good at. People are fighting because they gotta fucking provide food for their families, and then you have these people who are fucking in their mansions, fucking training and sitting back and getting the best food and nutrition. It's fucking bullshit, dude. It's fucking bullshit. I hate it, but hey, that's just my opinion.
Couldn't agree more. So yeah, I mean, the way the show works is the first question always comes from me, and the last question also always comes from me, and that's if you had to give one piece of advice to the people watching at home, what would you say? Boxing or in general life?
Don't be a dick. That's it. Stay humble. Be a good person. Be a good human. The world needs more of those people.
Don't be an asshole, ladies and gentlemen. Josh, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate you. If you guys like the show, make sure to like and subscribe. If you guys want to check out what's going on with the show, check out the channel, subscribe. If you guys want to see what's going on with Josh, all his links are down below. If you guys want to see who's coming up next, make sure to check out my links as well. And with that, this has been the USP Podcast. My name is Ed in Toronto. It's been Josh Polit, and I'll see you guys next week.
Yeah.